G'day. I thought just for interest's sake I'd do a bit of a review on the Hennessy Hammock. Now the Hennessy Hammock, this one here that I have is the Expedition Hammock, the asymmetrical Hennessy Hammock. I've got to say that for a long time I was reluctant to ever get into these. I had done other bit of shopping around on YouTube and various other forums and stuff to see what people have been saying about them. I think probably the biggest thing that I found that put me off is just my own ideals about sleeping in a hammock. Like the idea of sleeping bent like a half-shut pocket knife just really didn't cut it for me, so I was quite reluctant initially to actually buy one. But it wasn't until I'd done a bit of fishing around and looking at forums and what other trampers and hunters and the likes have been saying that I thought I would give it a go. And to be honest, I had this thing for probably 12 months before I actually decided to ever use it. I just had an air of reluctance about it. I didn't want to be caught out with a sore back, and so I wanted to be in a position where I could try the thing. Didn't really have anywhere at home to set it up. Had to be out in the bush really. So I wanted to be somewhere where I could set it up, and if it was breaking my back in the middle of the night, I wanted to be able to get out and think to hell with it. But anyway, I did try it out, and to be perfectly honest, I have to say, you know, in line with a lot of the other reviews and that you might read about this, it is actually a worthwhile product to buy. This one, like I say, is the Expedition, and when you buy this one, the initial weight of it to carry it is certainly less than a tent, but the weight on its own in the Expedition by itself is about 1170 grams, so about 2 pounds 9 ounces. Says it right there, 2 pounds 9 ounces. They have a weight limit for you know, so if you're morbidly obese, probably pay not to get into it, but the weight limit is about, well, it says 250 pounds, so I'm guessing about 115 kg thereabouts. Beyond that, you might be pushing it if you get into it. Wouldn't be surprised if you ripped it. This Hennessy Hammock here, it's just got the Velcro underneath. There is Hennessy hammocks where you can get in on the side, but this one here is just the underneath one. The side ones, if I was to get another one, I would go for one that had the side entrance as well. So setup is fairly simple. Now in this one I have gone a step further because I found with the Expedition asymmetrical one, the fly, the rain fly that you get with it initially is not very big, and I just didn't trust it. I can't say I'd had any bad experiences myself with it, but I do understand that one or two other people didn't have really bad experiences, but you know, just the size of the fly just allowed, you know, if it was raining and it was raining sort of on an angle, wouldn't be a lot of water, but there would be some room for water getting in, and so I didn't really trust the thing. I did, when I first started using it, I did use the rain fly that came with it, but decided to go on and get a bigger fly, and the distributor here, and I'm here in New Zealand, which I'll talk a little bit more about, the distributor for them in Athol, a place called Athol, Andy Sallins, and went to him and bought there is a bigger fly available. If you look at these up, HennessyHammocks.com, you can actually see that there is other flies available and other attachments for them as well. So I went ahead and bought the Hex fly, which certainly adds a little bit more weight. It's over double, maybe over double the size of the original fly, rain fly that's in it. It certainly adds size and weight to it. So bear that in mind if you want to get the, because I mean, obviously you buy these things with the idea of having to carry the minimum gear, which is what I do, you know, when I'm trying to go hunting or something like that. The reason I really want to do a review here is because there is other reviews about them, but I find that, and like this review, people review them on the basis of where they're at, and so I mean really it's not going to do anybody a fat load of good if they're giving you a review and they're living in the tropics. Okay, so I'm here in the southern part of New Zealand, which is a cooler temperate zone. We get a lot of rain, and so I kind of think if you wouldn't go much colder than here. I mean, I wouldn't be going into up into central Saskatchewan and Canada and using this thing in the winter or the autumn up there. It'd be too cold. But here is kind of, I think southern New Zealand in this cooler temperate zone is kind of we get the limits of it. We have high mountains and stuff. So I mean, taking it into the bush line, into the snow line. I have spoken to guys that have done it with these things, and they have a few recommendations for it, which I'll pass on to you as well. So in my using this, I have found it's best just as an additive to have extra rope. I carry 2 bits of extra rope, just one for each end if I need to. Ideally, the distance between trees you probably want maybe about 5 meters, which is where the ropes that are with it, because with it there's the ropes on the hammock, but you'll also get, I'm going to start dropping stuff everywhere here, you'll also get some webbing straps that you can strap around the trees, the tree at each end, and then thread your ropes through. And these webbings are quite good because they'll actually stop rope roll down on the trees. So I do actually like these webbings, and I do use them where possible. So put them around the tree. I'll just show you. So if you strap them around the tree, thread the rope through your loops, and hang your hammock from there, it will stop roll down of the rope. Okay. The thing about, if you're going to find a place where the trees are much further out than the ropes that are already on the hammock, you have to bear in mind that the further out you've stretched your ropes, the more you're going to sag in your hammock. So ideally, if you can keep it within the space that the ropes allow, that are already intrinsic on the hammock itself, you're probably going to do yourself more favours. The thing about getting a hex fly is that you want to set the hex fly up separate to the hammock itself. Now the fly that comes with it, the fly that was already in the package, it attaches to the lines that you bring out to your tree. So you've got little sliders at each end of your hammock, and you can put the rain fly across to that. With the hex fly, the additional hex fly that I got, because of the size of it, it's advised that you actually attach that singly to the trees itself. So you've got your hammock tied to the tree, and then you should have your hex fly tied separately. The reason, and one of the other reasons for doing that, is because the way the hex fly is built, when you get into the hammock, you will sag. There will be some sag. So if I put the hammock at say 3 or 4 feet high, or 3 feet high, by the time I get into it, I'm going to be down 1.5 foot at least. Okay, and you'll bring your fly down with it. And particularly the hex fly, I find the inward sag, it tends to sag quite a lot more. So you've got less room between your fly and your hammock itself. So do learn to tie the hex fly. If you get one, tie the hex fly separately to the hammock. So I'll just show you quickly the setup. It's a fairly simple procedure. So there's your hammock. They are pretty convenient and light. You have to untie the ropes, but I'll just keep the ropes all nice and tidy once I've packed it up. That way there's no tangles and not unwinding the damn thing when you want to set it up again. Keep your ropes all nicely rolled. And this where I'm hunting here, just going back to where we are, in New Zealand here, we do get a hell of a lot of rainfall, and so hence my reservedness, if you like, about wanting a bigger fly. I'll set it up first anyway. So which end am I going to go? That's look where you're underneath there, where your entry is. So the entry's at this end. So I'm going to sit it around here. Come off there. Now in this case, I am going to use one of the extra ropes. The other thing about tying your ropes too, which you learn pretty quickly, is that when you're tying your ropes, learn to tie knots that are going to undo easily, because once you start tying these in a knot, and then the tension goes on them, they from you hopping into it, the tension is quite bad in terms of trying to undo the rope again. So just try and do it like a simple bowline or something like that. That's easy to undo, because otherwise when you get your tension on and it pulls these tight, they can be just absolute nightmares to undo. So I just try and do a bowline, which is a fairly easy knot to do, and it's a relatively easy knot to undo, given that you've put tension on it. Right. So because they will tighten up quite considerably once you've been in it for the night, and you get out in the morning and there's nothing worse than trying to pick away at this knot and trying to get it undone so you can roll it all up again. Same as when you go around the tree, you really want to try and give yourself a decent knot that you can undo again. Okay, I'll tie this to the tree at one end. Here I was telling you all about putting the webbing strap on the tree, and I went and forgot the damn thing myself. Okay, I've tied that into a tree where you, out of view where you couldn't see. This end I will tie up to, probably need to go back that way a little bit more. I'll tie up to here. And again, I've gone and forgotten the webbing strap. Damn it. Right, I've just actually half hitched that on there in the meantime. Until I get this sorted out my lengthwise, because I'm going to adjust it up this way, and I take a few minutes to adjust it to get the right height and to make sure that you want this backbone, this rope here that is above your mesh, you kind of want that level, and you want your hammock to be sitting at least above your hips, high from the ground, so when you get into it, remember you sag, you are going to get some drop in it, so you want that kind of, you want to be able to be, you know, at least a foot or so, 2 feet off the ground. I'm just going to adjust this up a bit more. Okay, so you can see I've got the hammock, I've got it quite high at the moment, so it looks like, you know, how the hell do you get into that? But once I sit my backside down into that, see if I'm going to try and sit into that, might have to just bounce and pull it down a little bit, but probably that's not a bad height really. Sitting there where it is, maybe it wouldn't have mattered if I'd come up even a little bit more. Okay, so that's your basic hammock. Now, the fly, there's something I was going to say about that before I put the fly on. Oh right, that's what I was going to say. The thing about using these hammocks in the cold, and particularly in this temperate zone, is that you can buy, and you'll see it on this site, on the Hennessy Hammock site, there is actually an undershield here that you can buy, like an insulator, to stop the ground chill coming up. I haven't used one of them myself. What I do tend to use is a foam mat inside it. Just the foam sleeping mat things that you buy for backpacking and stuff. I tend to lay that in. Now the thing about going on to the issue of, you know, lying there like a half-shut pocket knife, the trick with Hennessy hammocks is not to lie in them, you know, 12 o'clock, 6 o'clock, so head, feet, okay. The trick is to lie in these things on an angle, okay, that's how you're going to get straight. Now, if you lie, say your head's about, say 1:30, and your feet would be about 7 or 7:30, you'll find yourself pretty straight. There may be a slight bend, but they're pretty damn good, okay, so don't think before you buy these that, oh man, I'm going to sleep, you know, and end up like a banana in the morning with a broken back. You won't if you just, when you get in them, you angle to the side of them, and so my head will be on this side, and my feet would be over the other side here, okay, and you kind of angled on it, and the tension, if you're lying on the angle, will actually straighten you out, and they are much more comfortable and much more bearable. In fact, you know, I thought, oh, you know, I might be able to tolerate a day or two in them, but I could easily probably swallow 5 days, because I hate being bent up at night. I like to be straight. Given that there is a bit of you know, and particularly with putting a foam mat inside them, there is a bit of jostling around. You know, you do have to sort of wrestle around in there and try and get yourself into a position to get comfortable. Once you're there, you're usually pretty good. So, setting the fly up. Again, pays to cart a bit of extra string on these things. And with the extra hex fly, if you can either stab sticks in the ground and tie them down that way, but you will need to have maybe carry a couple of tent pegs and to tie down the sides. Now, find each end. There is a seam running along the backbone of it there. There it is. So that's one end. That's the top end. Now, initially I just hook it up to the slider that's on here, just to give myself a bit of a guide as to where I want to go. But once I start tying it up, take it off the slider, because it will just, you don't want to have all the tension of the fly on the sliders. So again, just unravel my ropes here, put it on that slider, and I put it on the slider just so I can get a position, the little slider that's built in here with a clip, just to get a position of where on the hammock I actually want the fly. So how far up do I want this end over the fly, and how far does it come down over the feet. The reason, you know, when I spoke to the distributor about these, the reason that they don't have this bigger fly on it in the first place is because when they built these hammocks, I guess they had in mind that people wanted to carry the bare minimum. So if you want more than that, you're just going to have to go the extra and buy the bigger fly. So that's not too bad. Maybe once I tension that up, there should be plenty of room. Then you just tie out your sides. These flies are quite good in respect of in the corners, in all the corners they've got where the strings are, they've got a little pocket so you can roll your rope up and tuck the strings up into these little pockets in the corner, and it keeps the fly all nice and tidy. Because they're nylon, I have tended to, and this is just me again with my paranoia about getting wet, and that is I have actually silicone sprayed it. The thing about Hennessy hammocks, which I don't believe they have done, is they haven't UV rated the nylon, which I don't think is probably such a big deal, in that you're not going to be out in the open sun like you might be with a tent all the time. So I don't think there's any UV rating on these flies. Like I say, I have put a silicone spray on it, maybe unnecessarily, but in any case it's just a bit of extra insurance for me when it rains. So once you tie these out, you've got plenty of room, and then I'll show you the hammock itself. So that's about right, and I will tie off the fly. I'll just undo it from that slider. There's it. And get a bit of extra height of the hammock on the of the fly over the hammock. And again, tying these separately to because the other flies you do tie onto the slider, but these flies you tie separately onto the tree. I normally don't carry pegs around for the corners because I usually just make do with getting a stick and jamming it in the ground, and then tying or finding a tree root on the ground or somewhere and tying the fly to that. But in this case, where I am here, I have actually got some pegs lying around. So once you've been out with it a couple of times, you kind of learn, you know, what you need and what you don't need. You know, like me with the extra rope and stuff. I mean, other people might not carry extra rope. I do, because it's just my preference to do that. And as well as some water dripper stoppers, which I'll show you in a minute too. The fly ropes are quite long. There seems to be plenty of room for them to play with, to, you know, like to tie onto the root of a tree or something like that. There seem to be any problems with the length of it. Okay, that's my fly tied up. Well, that's it, assembled really. Now, something else I was going to show you. Okay, you can see there that I'm a bit offset from the centre of the fly. That's okay. I can just I can actually adjust that. That's just the way I've tensioned the fly up down the right side here. I've just kind of probably pulled it a bit tight. I can soon loosen the things up there and bring it over to the left a bit. That's not much of a problem. The thing I wanted to show you is this. Now in the YouTube reviews, there is quite a few of them. Put that little slider, once you've attached these, put that little slider right down against your hammock here, just to keep it out of the way. The other thing about them is rainwater running down the lines. Now I don't imagine that, you know, it would take a lot of rain to start running down and getting into your hammock and getting wet. If you go online, go onto YouTube, and I don't know, I can't even remember what the hell I typed in, but if you look at these, there is actually a number of devices available to apparently combat this. You can make a cut here and there's make a couple of loops and there's like a D-ring thing, and there's all sorts of devices that you can attach to these things that apparently stops when the rainwater comes down, it drips it off, or supposed to drip it off here. Now some of those are quite position dependent. I see one little, there's like a little metal C-ring that you put on, but if it's not sitting the right way, instead of sitting like that, if it's sitting over on its side, your water's going to run down. And the moment you put tension on this, you can guarantee your rope's going to turn. Okay, so I found, or I believe, from what I've seen on a lot of these reviews, and there is some good ones on there. If I can find them, I'll put them in the description on here for you. But I have found that of all the stuff, the best thing, in actual fact, the one that's going to work if it rains and you've got worries about rainwater running down the line into your hammock, is just using some wickable string or a cloth. Myself, I carry these. I put these in the hammock. Now this is just a bit of hemp rope, and I put a you know, so it's about what, 35-40 centimeters long. Okay, folded in half. Okay, I put knots in the bottom of it just to give it some weight so they hang down, because you want rainwater to come down. Because even these hemp ropes, see, I just half hitch it on there like that, pull it on. Okay, and you don't want it sitting up like that. Okay, you really want them down, so that's why I put the wee knots there, just to give it some weight. Put them in just a couple of centimeters up from your hammock, but underneath your fly. Okay, so if any rainwater comes down, it's got to be a wickable thing. I wouldn't put I wouldn't use nylon rope for these things, because nylon's not wickable. The water could just bounce on it, whereas this, the water hits it, soaks, and it will start to dribble down here. Okay, so I haven't had any bad experience. Like, I haven't been in enough rain to know that this is a fail-safe actual system. But when you're looking at the whole wickability and the whole issue of rainwater running down here, I would have confidence in this, and just these hemp ropes. Now, we'll look at the hammock. Right, the hammock's just sitting there. Obviously it's looking a bit narrow. That's alright, and it's, like I say, it's still off centre, which I will adjust the fly just to bring it over and centre it up a little bit more. So my entry point is this Velcro thing here, and so what you do is, when you get into it, okay, put your bum in one side there, get right back in against where the entry goes up to the back, up to the middle of it, and then lie in it. And again, like I say, it's a case of lying angled on it. Don't lie up and down in it once you get into it. Okay, so you know, there at the moment I am about 3 feet off the ground. I probably wouldn't mind being a bit higher, but at that point 3 feet off the ground. When I get into it and I'm on 100 kg, it will definitely sag. We'll just have a look when I put the camera so you can see the ground. Out there, so I'm about 3 feet off the ground there. Okay, so when we get into it, I won't put my feet right in it because I've just got dirty old boots on. But so you get into it with this. I pull the back of it down the lower end of my bum. Okay, Okay, now at that point I'm about, looks like I'm about a foot off the ground. And as you can see, because my fly is tied up individually of the ropes on the hammock, the fly hasn't come down with me. So that's why you don't want to tie the fly to the ropes on the hammock, because if the fly was tied to the hammock strings, this fly would just drop down with it immediately itself. So the fly has stayed where, you know, even if I didn't adjust the fly up to the centre, I'd be fine overnight, because I've still got, you know, 1.5 foot out this side here, and obviously I've got 3 feet actually out this other side. So I would, and when you get into them, you can be sure that the ropes are going to tighten up and tension up and you're going to sag. So probably doing a stretch in it like this, and then just getting yourself out, and then go and have a look at retightening your ropes and bringing it up again, which is what I usually do anyway. If you haven't noticed, and where I am here, it's trying to rain. It's starting to spit down now. I'm not too worried. In respect, I still think I'm going to have a comfortable night. I'll tell you about it in the morning. But I have no concerns with this fly and this bigger fly here about if it rains tonight. And you can already see, it's a bit hard to see, you won't see it on camera, but you know, with the silicone that I've given it, the rain just doesn't want to stay on it. It's just got the droplets are trying to get off now. So I'm going to tighten this up a little bit more, and I actually am going to centre it over this fly a little bit more as well. So centering it over means that I'm just going to loosen off one side and then bring my tension over to the other side. And I can see that by doing that, it's already bringing my two lines pretty much centre with each other here. That's a little bit better. And really, I might raise it up a bit. So the one I've got the most room on, I've got more room at that end of the fly, so I might actually tension the rope up a bit more at that end, just to lift my fly up a little bit more. That won't be hard to do. Okay, this is going to be probably a bit awkward, being that I'm just here by myself and trying to film this. I have raised it up, so I'm probably quite high now, maybe a little bit too high, but nevertheless. And what I mean by putting something underneath to sleep on, so you don't get cold, is, you can't see this close, so it's just one of these foam sleeping mats. Okay, so what I do, I'll show you inside the hammock, when you get in there, right, you can see the mesh. Good mesh, that is, no SAM insect mesh. And again, this is in the entrance, this is the entrance way, there's the middle of it in there. And like I say, you don't want to lie with your head going right up to the apex up there. You want to just lie diagonally on it. So when I put this in, see how that looks. There's not much light here, is there? Okay, so all you can really see is darkness, but it was showing. Alright, so zoomed in. I want to zoom in, zoom out, that's better. Right, so there's my entrance, looking up to the apex, which is up there, and you can see that I've just laid this thing on the diagonal. Okay, like I say, probably about, that looks to be about, what's that, 11, up past 10, 11 o'clock, and the foot of it here will be at about 5 o'clock, up past 4. If you can understand what I'm trying to say. Alright, so, and those sleeping mats I generally find are pretty good. I wouldn't go into the snow, up into the snow line with it. I would want something a little bit more substantial than the foam mattress, but I find generally, like I've been in the rain in pretty damp conditions, and that sleeping mat is pretty adequate. They're a bulky thing to carry around. Unfortunately, they're not heavy, they're just a bulky pain in the backside, but they certainly make for a better night's sleep. And once you're in it, like I say, you've got to sort of jostle yourself around to get in there, and you're sort of mucking around. You spend your first 10 minutes in the hammock, 10-15 minutes getting inside your sleeping bag, getting in there and getting into a right position. But once you're there, I can assure you it's a good night, and that's coming from somebody who was very reluctant about these things in the first place, these hammocks. That's about as much as I think I can show you in the meantime. Like I say, I will get back to you tomorrow morning and I'll tell you what sort of a night I've had, in view of the fact that it is supposed to rain. Again, just looking just under the fly there, just got my drip preventer, and there's actually, I did put another one at the other end there too, going up under there, and it is under there, just so that any rain comes down the lines, they're not going to keep them out of the tent. Tent looks a bit, the fly looks a bit patchy in that, just because of the amount of, just because of the silicone spray on it actually. That's all it is, just a bit of waterproofing. So, that's that. And I will see you in the morning. So, it is the next morning, and as predicted, it did pretty much rain through the night, and there's no worries here. I'm dry as, quite warm, just with that bit of foam matting under me, and we had a good night really. As you can see, I'm sort of half-cocked angled on it, so my feet, my head here at about 1 o'clock, and my feet over there at 7. You have inside these hammocks too this little pouch thing here that hangs on that centre line. It's just you know, you can put back torch and whatever, you just put some bits and pieces in. What else? That's it. There's your night. So a fairly comfortable night, and lying fairly straight. Like I say, just a little bit of a bend, but not bent like a banana in here or anything like that. And looking out, you know, the rope's tight. I didn't drop too much. The ropes didn't stretch or anything. I've still got plenty of elevation from on the ground, pretty much as I started with when I first got in. So that was good. So that's the Hennessy hammock for you. What I do tend to do as well, just a little tip, is, you know, put a piece of plastic on the ground there, so when you're getting in and out, particularly on wet ground, you're not getting stuff on your feet and socks and stuff. Keeps your feet dry. Other than that, I'm not here as a sales pitch, but I would recommend it as a, if you want to travel light and you've got places you want to set it up, it's certainly worth taking. That's the Hennessy hammock.